that COVID-19 has brought many changes to businesses, such as working from home, but it's also bringing new challenges, as you're about to find out. There are many exciting opportunities around, especially as many UK companies now want, because of COVID, to buy British. That's good news. The challenging news is that buyers are more nervous than ever about suppliers' financial standing. You may be thinking, well, they need to know you have the skills to do the task, but they are likely thinking, will this supplier go bust on us? St. Helens Chamber of Commerce is about helping you grow your business and is leading the way in support such as winning new contracts and tenders. As the tender coach for the Chamber, it's my job also to know what's happening and changing in the world of buying that may impact you, no matter the size of your business. Being financially bid ready will be key. So I asked Chamber Financial Coach and Business Advisor John Woods to give you some key and straightforward advice. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Malcolm. It's nice to see you at last. After so
Yeah, we've been COVIDly distanced, haven't we? John, I said in my opening piece that all types of buyers are now nervous about the financial viability of all sizes of suppliers and want their suppliers to be wary also down the chain. How can the Chamber help businesses get financially bid ready?
Well, Malcolm, we've got a really good project in place called Business Financial Planning. We've had it probably for about 5 years now. It's funded by St. Helens Council. So from a business point of view, there's no cost involved. And the support is for 12 hours of one-to-one support with myself on any sort of subject, as long as it's financially based. So we tend to do a lot of forecasting, costing, account analysis, a whole range of stuff, and it's really valuable for businesses in St. Helens.
Superb. Now, in my experience dealing with buyers, potential suppliers, just like the Dragon's Den contestants, let themselves down when talking financials. What's the minimum knowledge a business leader should aim for having at his or her fingertips in such a situation?
Minimum knowledge. Obviously turnover, you need to know turnover. You need to know your gross profit and you need to know your net profit. But I think what's important is those figures on their own for 1 year of limited value, you need to know 3 years so that anyone looking at your figures, or if you're having a conversation with somebody, can get a feeling for how the business is progressing. So, you know, it's great having a £1 million turnover, but if last year it was 2 million, then there's obviously an issue. So there needs to be some record of some knowledge of past year's trading, and also what you're expecting in the years to come.
And that last bit is important, John, because let's not put new businesses off. They can still bid for good new work. It's just that they need to have realistic projections. Could you give me, say, 3 ratios that are easy to understand for every business that they could implement to monitor their business and that will show a buyer that they've got a good handle on their business's performance?
Yeah, absolutely, Malcolm. And it is something I really stress to businesses, the importance of knowing your ratios, knowing the margins. Obviously, your profit margins probably, but definitely the most important thing that you need to have a good handle on. So gross profit and net profit, you need to know those figures. And again, you need to know them. If you've got figures from the past three years, then you need to know those as well. I also tend to use the same sort of calculations to analyze the costs. So you can look at, for example, how much your wage bill is as a percentage of your turnover. Monitor that. That should stay reasonably consistent over a number of years unless there's any definite changes. So I'd say that's essential. And then I would look at current ratio. So looking at your ability to pay the bills. Have you got enough cash in the bank and enough current assets to pay the bills? Really important. And again, really easy to calculate.
Yeah.
Another thing, whether we would call it a ratio or not, I don't know, but I always look at break-even calculations. I think break-even calculations for any business are absolutely essential and so valuable, gives you so much knowledge. Especially when you've done a forecast, look at what you forecast, and then the break-even calculation, what you need to do in order to achieve that forecast. So I would say they're probably the three most important that I would recommend anyway.
Brilliant, John. And I'm totally with you on the break even. Yeah. Buyers often tell me, and you know that I talk to buyers and interview them on a regular basis, but they talk to me often confidentially, by the way. So this is a special insight, that they don't want to necessarily look at a supplier's turnover or profit, because that's a bit vanity. It's cash flow that they want to see, as that gives them a better indication if the supplier will be able to deliver on the contract. Cash flow can at this time be hard to predict. What are your top tips on getting it as perfect as possible?
Perfect and cash flow forecasting don't really go together, do they, Mal? I mean, it's difficult at the best of times, isn't it, to predict cash flow and forecasting. And whenever I talk to businesses about it, invariably the response I will get is, I don't know what I'm going to turn over next month. How can I possibly know what I'm going to turn over in 12 months' time? And the answer obviously is you don't. It's a guesstimate. So top tips. Firstly, get it down on paper or on screen. I always use Excel, which I think is brilliant, and that's what I use when I'm dealing with businesses. I've set up different types of forecasting for different types of business. I tend to start off forecasting profit and loss, and then I transfer those figures with VAT, if necessary, into a cash flow forecast. I think that's a really good way of doing it. It splits it up, and it's easier to forecast, in my opinion. Starting off, I always put down what I know. So any business, there are certain figures, mainly in your overheads, that you know. So your rent, your mortgage payments, all those kind of things, directors' wages. You've a good idea what they're going to be. Get those figures down. Don't beat yourself up about trying to be too accurate over it. Get them to where you think they are. And from there, I always start to look at the cost of sales. I tend to use historical figures if I can, because percentage-wise, and then I'll keep going back to percentage-wise, but they do tend to be similar over year on year. So I would start off at that. So if cost of sales for the past 3 years has been between 20 and 25%, then I would sort of start off there. So they're the easy bits. The difficult bit is how do you forecast your sales, and that's where we've got to look. Every business is different, isn't it, Malcolm? It's different. Depends what market you're in, what type of business you do. I tend to, if I'm dealing with a local business, so let's say a small SME that's working in St Helens area, Northwest, I tend to look at the local economy. So look at the potential size of the market, various ways of doing that. Look at the competition, and then from there, you've got a size of market. Look at your existing turnover. That's the percentage of that market you've got. If I can give you a quick example, I did a project with a company that do home care for the elderly. So they do the care in the actual home. They were looking to expand. They were doing really well. So we did a project whereby we analysed the population of St Helens. We got some figures on the average age that people require home care. We knew the figures of what they would spend. So within a short space of time, we had a figure, the size of that market within this area. Did some competitor analysis, and before you know it, we've got those figures to hand. So we know then that our share of the market is whatever, is 10%. So we want to increase that by whatever means to 15% next year. Just gives you some concrete things to work on, some targets to look at.
That's excellent advice, John. And let's not worry people listening and watching this, because it's the buyers looking to see that you've made the effort to do cash flow, because they themselves for their company may not be able to do it. They want to see that you've done that rather than, finger in the air type of thing. Now,
bit more, sorry, Mark, but yeah, just introduce a little bit of science to it is the way I look at it, and it varies with everything. Sometimes it's easier than others. If you're looking at a worldwide market, then, unless you want to spend thousands of pounds on market research, then, it's going to be a little bit got to be a little bit clever, haven't you, and try and just look at general economy and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I like that approach, a little bit of science. Now, whilst the buyer is looking at the supplier, let's say a chamber member, that member may also need to ensure that his or her suppliers won't let them down. So what information or help can you give them via the chamber to help them understand their own suppliers?
As a chamber member, you can receive free credit checks on any company, and that's what I always advise. Credit check people, and it's amazing actually how many people don't do it, even though it's as easy if you're a St Helens Chamber member to drop us an email and say, please can I have a credit check on XYZ, and you'll have it within the hour. From there you can get an idea of that company, how it's performing. It's limited, and the way I see it, Malcolm, it's moving the odds a little bit more in your favour. So if they've got a decent, if they've got decent cash flow, if they've got decent working capital, you know, you've got some sort of comfort.
And John, I've got to say to you, if a chamber member does that, they're going to get themselves an edge when they're tendering, because that's what the buyer's thinking down the supply chain. And all the media and everything that's going on at the moment is, how can you peer right the way down your supply chain? And the supplier that helps them does that, shines the light further down, will be the favored one. John, it's my experience in all the years of coaching on tendering that suppliers leave it far too late to get, as one dragon on Dragon's Den said, their ducks in a row. Again, based on our experience, and just remind us for what we discussed at the beginning there, how do they get that financial readiness review done with you now? How can you help? What do they need to do now?
Right. It's basically, Malcolm, just to stress, this is only for businesses within St Helens. You don't have to be a chamber member, although obviously, you know, I will be twisting your arm up your back trying to get you to be a member if we do the support. But basically, contact me, ring the chamber, ask for me. I don't know whether you can provide my email or contact details.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And then we take it from there. I tend to sit down either over Zoom, have a meeting, or socially distance wherever at the customer's premises, get a feel for the business, see what they want to do, and then we're good to go, really. The paperwork's straightforward. The best thing of all is it's fully funded, doesn't cost the business anything. It's a fantastic offer. Why wouldn't you? There's no reason not to do it, Malcolm, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I reiterate that, John, because, as I say, we're very close to what buyers and what are happening at the moment. COVID has caused this big panic, and they are worried about their suppliers and the supply chain. So no matter the size of your business or who you sell to, this is timely advice and help from John. Get ahead of your competitors and be ready for buyers by talking to John now. Thank you, John, from St Helens Chamber.
Thanks, Malcolm. It's been a pleasure.